Hello, this is Peter from Franke de la Fuente, and this is our second episode of our series of podcasts that we are producing now. We're doing here in the beautiful city of Palma de Mallorca in the Balearics. We have established ourselves here with an office, a presence here, after our background starting out in the Costa del Sol. And throughout these years, preparing and doing the research to enter this market, the Balearic market, I had the opportunity and pleasure to meet a few very interesting professionals, and I had interesting conversations with them. And the idea is, of course, to put on the cameras and let you join these conversations with us. And that's why I'm very happy and pleased to invite and introduce Florian today from Kensington Properties.
Thank you for having me today here. It's an honor to be here and, of course, to be part of this episode. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, we would like to hear maybe a little bit more about. Let's start with Kensington. Can you tell us about the company?
Of course, a pleasure. So Kensington is basically a real estate agency. What is very interesting is that we have local roots. So although our name is and sounds very British, Kensington Finance Properties was founded here on Mallorca in 1998. Which is amazing. So basically, we're a Mallorquin company. So it started all here on the island. Throughout the years, of course, we increased our organization. We established on the island 12 offices, and I have the pleasure and the responsibility to lead 5 of these offices, focusing the center of the island and the southwest. And throughout the years, especially in the last couple of years, we also built up a very strong international network with having globally over 100 offices. The strongest market for us in terms of offices is still the DACH region, which means Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But we're also internationally expanding.
All right, interesting. And of course, there's a person behind these 5 companies, and that's yourself, Florian. So what can we say about Florian? What's your background?
So my background is basically I studied business management, pretty classic, I would say. Then I had in my first steps in the career like consultancy jobs, worked for different companies, bigger companies, focused based in Germany actually. And a couple of years ago, about 12 years ago, I stepped into, let's say, restructuring companies. So I was focusing on building environments, building up companies. Sometimes even we entered startup situations. And definitely my passion is, and this is when I found my passion, is building up environments, building up teams, working environments where people feel happy and are able to perform at their top level. And this is even today my passion. And how do I come to Mallorca? My kids moved here 7 years ago because my wife and I, we said we would like to have an international environment for our kids to grow up. And this is a great spot here on Mallorca to be able to provide like this international environment for kids, which I think is exciting. They can grow. And of course, I had to decide whether to stay in Germany or to move myself to Mallorca. And I found a great opportunity here within Kensington, where I could even follow my passion, namely building up a great environment, a great team spirit where people are happy. And this makes me happy finally.
Perfect. So German then, of course. We didn't mention that, but that's
Yeah.
you're German.
I'm German.
Where in Germany are you from?
It's a city called Bielefeld, so
Yeah.
it's between Hanover and Dortmund.
Okay, yeah.
It's maybe it's not that well known, but we have a football team playing in the Bundesliga at least.
You know, being a bit of a football nerd myself, I know
Yeah.
about Bielefeld. Maybe that shows a little bit more. That's more of a sign of my obsession with the sports, perhaps, that I actually know about that team.
Amazing.
But it is interesting. One thing that you mentioned now, well, several things actually, but I want to focus on one of them now, is that, you know, us and me personally having the experience of building a company as well in on the Costa del Sol and now also here in Palma. What you meet is, and I'm sure you had this similar experiences, you meet a lot of people, of course, from all parts of the world coming to Spain, to the south of Spain, with completely different experiences, starting in the real estate industry, either as more of from a business point of view as yourself, or also or as an individual agent, etc. But talking about it from a business point of view, because that's sort of your bread and butter, right? What do you think about that? Because it's so different compared to maybe more, let's say, the local national industries in different countries. Usually there is a sort of a tradition, and there are people from that country that develops into that industry and so on. But here we have people from all around the world coming with different cultural backgrounds, completely different experiences. Not all of them, like yourself, having a business management background, and entering into local Spanish real estate market. That gives quite different profiles and characters of those companies. Do you see my point here?
Absolutely, and I agree. Absolutely agree. This is a situation that I'm facing, especially here in this job now, even more than I was used to in Germany. Because in Germany it was more about people, local people with a more, let's say, German mindset that I work together with. So here it's, as you said, a completely different setup, but for me even more interesting. And I like to work with people and to work with them individually, to understand where are you coming from, what is your background, what is your expectation. And one important question that I ask myself quite often during my life so far, and I'm asking this question to all the people as well that I'm working together with: why are you here? What drives you? To understand their motivation, and if they haven't found it yet, even within, let's say, our organization, to work on this. And once we understand why they are here, what they are looking for, what they're striving for, then we have a good chance to implement them into, let's say, our environment, into our culture. And this is even more exciting because it's more important here compared to the jobs and the businesses I've done in Germany, for instance. So,
why is it more important?
Because the background is so different. So you have a completely different culture if you talk to someone maybe from Argentina, okay, compared to somebody from Hungary. It's just different. The background is different. The mentality is different, and this is why it's more complex to make sure that we have a same understanding, that we understand the culture and the business in the same way, that we have the same values, because it's different motivations, different cultural backgrounds. So it's as I said, not more difficult for me. It's even more interesting, and I love it, honestly speaking. Yeah,
that's interesting. And have you noticed any challenges? It's a leading question. I'm sure you have.
Let's see.
When it comes to expectations, because as I mentioned before, of course, I am one example. I didn't move here, but I moved to Spain 8 years ago. I worked myself as a real estate agent for 2 years, and before I started the law firm with my partners. And you always come with expectations. People that are moving to a new place, you come with certain expectations about the lifestyle, and let's focus now on the career. So the career as a real estate agent, because I'm sure you're working with the international team, am I right? So have you noticed a clash of expectations between reality and the expectations that they have when they come over? What do they expect from the job, versus the actual job?
Absolutely. What do you connect with Mallorca or with southern Spain? It's lifestyle, it's sun, it's beach, it's maybe whatever, wine, cocktails. It's fun. It's playing football, whatever you want to do. But if it comes, of course, to a profession, to a job, like being a real estate advisor, real estate agent, basically it's a profession. It's a professional job. So it's hard work, and if you have the expectation to come here to maybe make a shooting of a nice property, and then a week after it's sold, then this definitely clashes with the reality. The reality is, of course, we have a responsibility for our clients to value properties is not easy, because micro-location is absolutely crucial here on the island. And then having everything together, I mean, you know it yourself because you've been an agent, and now you're more focusing on the legal part, can be quite complex. So if you have a client maybe from Northern Europe with his setup in Northern Europe, then of course it could even have a clash here on the island if he wants to buy in Spain. So how do we do it? Because besides just finding a nice property with a great view and selling the lifestyle, basically it comes down, besides an emotional decision, of course, to, like, let's say, an investment case, because you have to buy the property. You need to know where and how to finance if you want to buy cash. So it all comes with a lot of knowledge that you would need to give a professional and high quality advice to your client. Either the vendor, because maybe it's not a local vendor, maybe he's Mallorquin, maybe not, maybe he's from Germany, also to the buyer. And bottom line, you have to know all this. It's not rocket science, of course, but you need the willingness and, of course, the expectation to learn this as fast as possible to give best advice to our clients.
No, it's definitely... And I agree with you completely. I think many times, and maybe we're at fault, or the market is at fault sometimes, to, of course, how we present the market, how it works, and the marketing, and etc. That you can sometimes maybe get the impression that it's pretty simple lifestyle. You have a few cocktails and you sell a few properties, and it's happy days ever after, right? Me being in that as an agent working for 2 years, it was tough. It's hard work. Being on the lawyer side and doing the legal parts, it's hard and difficult work as well many times. So I think it's absolutely correct to highlight that, because we are professionals and sometimes we might lose track of that because of the noise, let's call it that, on the market. So if we're now together here in this studio talking about this, what would you say about the definition of the services, if you would like to define that? What makes a good agent? What makes a good service from an agent point of view, would you say?
I even try to avoid the word agent. For me, we are advisors. So we're giving advice. We're not even sellers, because we're not selling anything, because we do not owe anything. The vendor is the one who's selling and the buyer is the one who's buying, and we are in the middle, same as you, teaming up once we're on the case with lawyers and experts, and we're giving advice. This is, I think, very, very important. For us, within our offices, our team, we have a clear, let's say, culture and clear business ethics, which is very important. So we have a very strong pre-sale process. We, of course, listen, first of all, to the vendor. What is your strategy? We give advice. What is the best strategy to sell your property at the best price possible, of course, but we're very straight always. And usually when a property comes to the market, usually it's overpriced, because, I mean, why not give it a shot to sell it maybe even at a higher price? Because there's always an emotional part, and how do you value emotions? So if there's a buyer who is willing to maybe pay a little bit more, although it might be overpriced compared to other properties, there is an emotional part. So of course you're willing to pay it. Okay. So a strong pre-sales, the same with the buyer. Of course, because we're not selling anything, we're finding the right property, and we're always clear, we're always straightforward, and we even give him advice. What is good about this property? Maybe what is not so good? Not to say a downside, but just to have it clear.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons, huh? And to be very straight. So this is very strong. This process and this culture we follow throughout the whole process, and we do not stop after, let's say, the notary is done. So we have after sales service as well. So we keep in touch with the new owners. We provide them full access to our network, which could be stuff like you need maybe someone to take care of your garden, you want maybe to renovate stuff. So we have this mentality of being a one-stop shop and being a full service provider. Okay, this I think is very important. Because figure out, I mean, or imagine yourself being new to this island. You have nothing. I mean, you know the agency maybe you bought with. Maybe you have, of course, still contact to the lawyer, but then usually it stops.
No, definitely, it's an advisory service. That's how we see it as well.
Yeah.
And we're usually advising. We're assisting when the time comes. The same client. So it's also special, this market, for being a lawyer, because you need to have a good communication, understanding, and collaboration as well with the advisors. Even though we have to keep our own, of course, ethical guidelines, and we're assisting only the client, etc., when it comes to that point. But it's definitely a teamwork. That's how it is many times, because that's an end goal for the client, is to buy that property through your advisory and ours as well. So when it comes to a little bit the more technical part of the job, you have talked about the culture and the challenges, etc., and your background. Your experiences now working on the island, when it comes to the actual cases or the actual transactions, what would you say have been the challenges, so to speak? What do you think there could be any improvements on that process?
For us, it's definitely focusing on the clients that, let's say, deserve our focus. So, of course, we have many potential buyers asking for properties, and then they want to do viewings and all this, but there is no sincere interest to really buy, let's say, in the next maybe 6 to 12 months. And we always have, and this is the same for you as well, limited resources. It's always the same on this, even on this planet. So there we have an eye on, and we have to focus on qualifying the clients, but also in the interest of the potential buyer. Because, I mean, if you really want to buy, you deserve our full interest, full power, full focus on your interest. And then we, of course, dig into the market. We really actively look and search for the right properties. Okay. And this is crucial because we have limited resources, as I said. And even someone who is interested, but not, let's say, someone who wants to close a deal and really wants to buy within the next 6 to 12 months, of course, we keep in touch. Of course, we build a bond, and we keep these people informed about whatever new property comes onto the market. But we need to focus more on the ones that really deserve our attention. And this is crucial, without, of course, losing the focus on the ones who might be willing to buy next year. Okay, this is, I think, very,
of course,
very
it takes. You need to be quite direct in your questions to the client to fully understand where they are in their.
No, of course, without any offense, it's just about knowing what is, dear client, your expectation, and how can we meet your expectation the best possible way. Where do we may have to correct an expectation because it's unrealistic, and this way we can provide the best possible service.
One thing that always is it's a fact, and it's something that I hope we can, with time it will change, but in comparison to most other Western countries, the lack of information about the products themselves, meaning the information of the legal situation of the properties, which comes as a surprise to many buyers, especially from the north, from Germany, from Scandinavia, but America as well, where they are very, very highly established legal guidelines on what is the required information. If you want to sell a property, you must provide this information at a very early stage to anyone interested. Failing to do so would be a breach of these regulations. Of course, here in Spain, by the housing law that we have, there are also obligations, legal obligations, theoretically, to give full and clear information by the intermediaries and to any potential buyer. But at the same time, regulations is one thing, traditions something else, and we have maybe a tradition as well of keeping things to yourself from a vendor point of view, and not maybe sharing too much. That's maybe part of the Spanish culture. That's something that I find sometimes difficult. What is your view on this? Because I understand that you want to establish very clear protocols. You're working with, you have a very clear idea on how to build your company, right? So how do you do when it comes to listings on this particular point, and the information about the property?
Very important, as you mentioned, is of course to get full access, ideally, to all the documents and all the information regarding the legal perspective of this property. And this is our goal, that we do like a pre-due diligence during the listing process, so that we actually know what we're offering to our clients. Because one thing that is very crucial, of course, once you found the right property for a client, and the client is ready and well prepared and has thought of financing and all these things up front, then we want to be fast. We don't want to lose time. No. So this is why we need to be prepared, even to know, as I said, what kind of product are we offering. Sometimes it's not easy. I mean, you know it yourself. And I would say it's not even a Spanish mentality. It's just a human mentality, I would say in general. This is my expectation here from the island, that sometimes you only get limited access upfront before it comes maybe to an offer, to a price agreement, and then the official due diligence. So it's not easy, but we are very straightforward with our owners as well and give them best quality advice, maybe ideally high quality service as well. And without knowing all the details of a property, we cannot bring them the right buyer and close a deal in the fastest possible time.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, you know it, but there are ways, of course, to convince the people to be very straightforward, very open. But sometimes you have surprises, of course.
Yeah, that's right. And to anyone listening, that is my view on this matter. Is that, of course, from a legal point of view, there are regulations in place that are requesting. It's mandatory for a seller to provide full and clear information about the property. That's quite clear. I think from a, let's say, a commercial point of view, any potential buyer would, of course, want to know what they're buying. So it's in the interest of the homeowner to be transparent with the information. And of course, we can understand that there's of course the matter of having all the information and when to release that information to a potential buyer. That's two separate things. But we're also, of course, very much aware that many times the vendors themselves, they don't have that information clear, because maybe it's an inherited property, maybe they bought it 25 years ago, maybe something happens throughout the years, maybe they were buying with an advisor that wasn't too meticulous in his job and didn't actually find out everything. So we actually find it many times that there are surprises when it comes to our due diligence, which we do. And I think this is something that we share, because when we represent the vendor, either it's that in Palma or it's in Costa del Sol, we always do a due diligence of that property before they put it on the market, because I have seen it so many times that the lack of information can sometimes lead to not a frustration, but a lack of confidence from a buyer's point of view. If they get the feeling that somebody's hiding something, they can get a little bit anxious and nervous about the whole thing. So I think if the information is there clearly, it's in everyone's benefit, so to speak. But I agree with you, sometimes it's not that easy, because you have to actually go and visit the town hall and open the books to fully understand the situation. All right, let's talk about a little bit more about the market and how it can develop in the upcoming years. So first of all, what's your view on availability of stock? Are there enough products to sell, in your opinion, at the moment?
We know that the island is quite special because we have limited stock, limited properties, limited situation, of course. But there is, of course, enough property to sell. If it's all, let's say, good and well-priced properties is another question. If you're looking for new builds, they're always limited because there are just, especially in the southwest, which is a very mature market, few plots left. So sometimes you would even buy a old house, tear it down, and work on a project and build new. So we always have limited, of course, properties and limited availability, but there is product on the market, even good product. You just have to find it, and it has to be, let's say, of your taste and what you are looking for. This is basically it. Yeah.
And how about prices then? What's your view on the prices? Well, 2025 and moving forward, well, how do you see it develop?
What I see for this year, and it was more or less the same development last year, we have a more balanced situation. So we have more qualified buyers. So potential buyers, they care more about what they are buying. They are better informed than it used to be a couple of years ago. So they're not buying whatever. And they have a clear view on the markets themselves because information is more accessible and more available nowadays, especially with AI and all the possibilities that you're having now. I mean, there is information available, and buyers are, let's say, more educated.
Yes,
This
definitely.
is definitely why they are more price sensitive as well. They can, even without being here and haven't been to the island, have a first idea of what a property is worth, do some calculations. And someone who's able, let's say, to buy a high-end property or a property in the 7-digit area is usually a quite smart client, knows how to analyze a market quite fast. As I said, with AI, it's done super fast. So a more balanced situation. Good property and well-priced properties, especially in prime locations, are always, I mean, worth the money, and we have great values there. But of course, we see overpriced properties, and we see vendors that lower their expectations.
But we had some development in the recent month with the new transparency in terms of the pricing. We have the data now from the notaries, which is helpful. Of course, we've been waiting for that for years now. But it's correct what you say. I have that experience as well, that clients, in my opinion, are more educated now. They have at least more information. Sometimes that information needs to be a little bit discussed because it's AI information or online information, so it's not always correct, but they definitely know more. Do you think that fact is helpful? Does it help you in from a position of from the real estate advisory position, or can it also be sometimes a problem?
I think it helps. In our philosophy, in our culture, within our team, it definitely helps because we are straightforward with our clients, vendors and buyers. And the better educated they are, the better discussion we're going to have afterwards, definitely, because what are we doing in terms of valuating, for instance, a property? So maybe it's on market already. Okay, it has a certain price, and then we are talking to a potential buyer. So we, of course, run through the process of valuating the property again. What we rely on is real market data. As you say, it's accessible now, and we are very transparent. And microlocation is absolutely crucial. So sometimes this is why AI and all the information that we are having now to value a property is not always very precise. I mean, even within one street, you can have huge differences in terms of sun orientation, view, noise, and all this. Very important. And we go even further because what AI is not able to do is to value the quality and the condition of the property, which is very, very important. So, I mean, it starts just with the substance of the property. Then you have all the technical installations and everything. So there is more than just data, more than just a street. It's microlocation, it's quality and condition. Very, very crucial.
Yeah. And how about your buyers then, in your experience? How many of them would you say, or do you see this at all? I guess you do, that they are buying to relocate or have a plan of relocating in the future? And how many of them are buying a second home, vacational home, would you say?
It's the trend is more going really to relocate, especially in terms of Mallorca, because it's just a very accessible location, well located in Europe. So more and more families and clients are really moving here with the whole family. I mean, we have a great infrastructure, as you know, with all the flight connections. We have an amazing system, educational system with international schools. You have it all. You can have it all if you want. So it's an amazing place for families that want to have their kids to grow up in an international environment.
Yeah.
Even though maybe one part of the parents is still working and is working internationally, then it's amazing.
Yeah.
But of course, most of the properties are still sold to people who have a second home here on Mallorca. But I wouldn't say only for vacation. I mean, without moving here, even legally and tax-wise, moving to Mallorca, you can spend how many days on the island?
183.
Okay, thank you. Oh, very accurate. So. I think it's more than just a vacational home. If you're able to
second home.
A second home. It's a second home. That's it. It's not a vacational home. It's a second home.
Yes.
And I have many clients. They didn't move here legally or tax-wise, but they have their second home here, and I see them once per month, or maybe I don't see them for 2 months, and then they're here for 1 month. So it's just amazing, especially, and this is one more interesting thing. I discussed it yesterday with a friend. That the summers are getting hotter here on Mallorca, maybe too hot. I would say, of course, yes, we see the change of the climate, but this makes even the off-season more attractive on Mallorca, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's changing. It's interesting what you said. I think you said this when we just sat down in the beginning. You said that your kids, you decided to move here for the opportunity for yourself, but also for your kids, right, to grow up in an international environment. And I had just a conversation with Frederick that owns this amazing studio just before you arrived. He moved over 8 years ago. So I also moved 8 years ago to Spain. And we spoke about our children because they have such an international, view of the world. When I grew up in Sweden, either you moved to that city in Sweden or another city in Sweden. You didn't really contemplate, the possibility of moving abroad. I don't know in Bielefeld if you were looking abroad or not, but that is something. I think that's an aspect. If we leave, the legal side, the prices and everything aside, and just talk about the human aspect, families moving over. My personal experience is, of course, that my children, they have the world as their backyard, so to speak. They are not limited. They have opened up their views of the world, and they now see Europe or the US or somewhere else. They really see opportunities, or the opportunities are natural to them, which is quite amazing. I think that is an aspect that I also have heard from many others that took the leap, and moved to either to Marbella or to this beautiful island. Am I right?
Absolutely, 100%. And what I really appreciate, besides having this international, but still, like local environment here on Mallorca with a local Mallorquin culture that we need to make sure it remains here.
Yeah.
Is that this island and the way the kids grow up here is very, very much grounded. Okay, so this is for me really it's paradise. It's heaven. Yeah.
Grounded in what way do you mean?
I mean, you see all these nice properties. You see the lifestyle that is promoted online, social media, all these videos and all this. But this is only a little tiny part of how life is on this beautiful island. So kids grow up here very, very grounded. They can play outside. They can even, go into the nature and everything. This is what I'm talking about. And this still connected to the local Mallorquin culture, which is very kid-friendly, and it's just amazing. Yeah.
No, that's very true, and I think that's true for. I'm going back to the two regions because I have a split vision on Palma and Marbella, of course. But it's similar in that way that, of course, we are exposed to this marketing as well, because we work in this industry. But if you're a potential buyer, you will enter into Google and you will search around, and then you will of course see the beautiful videos, the amazing views, the 25 million euro mansion on the top of the mountain, and so on. And you can get the sort of the impression that it's a high luxury kind of luxury lifestyle for everyone. But I agree with you. First of all, there are so many parts of this island. You can actually choose your lifestyle by finding your place only here. Similar in Marbella as well. Sometimes I get the feeling almost that, you know, there's a famous part of Stockholm in Sweden, which is very high-end luxury, you know. And sometimes I tell a Swedish client that what you see maybe in the commercials is that famous place, reflecting that same famous place in Stockholm, where it's very, you know, associated with luxury. But see it as the rest is like Stockholm, the city itself. You know, there's so many different places, so much to experience, so many different lifestyles to choose, actually. But everything, but nature is so close. You know, here mountains, the ocean, you know, the countryside, and to combine that with the international mindset that these areas can provide to, especially the kids, I think is quite unique. I sold it quite well, didn't I?
Yes, amazingly. If you're looking for a new job, I mean, just I mean, we can have a chat afterwards.
No, but it's fun talking to you,
It's-
Florian, because I think, I mean, we are lawyers, but we want to be part of this market, and then the market is very much, you know, talking to people like yourself.
Thank you so much. And just one more thing to add.
Yeah.
I mean, because you mentioned this, you know, this mentioned 25 million, whatever it is. Basically, we're all humans. We're people, and if you need time for yourself, of course, you go to your property, your nice villa, whatever it might be, or even a small apartment, which we offer, by the way, as well. And then you're all by yourself. But of course, we're social creatures, no?
Yeah.
And this is what I really love about Mallorca, because we have so many different social spots where you can socially interact with like-minded people, international people. It's just, yeah, for me, really, it's very, very nice. It's paradise, even for my kids. I'm very happy here. Although now the eldest in 2 years' time goes to university, and he wants to study in Germany, which I think is amazing as well.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Very interesting. Okay, but one final question. I have to ask this to all my guests, starting here. What lies in the future for Palma, for Mallorca and the Balearics, in terms of the market? What do you see? Where are we in 5 to 10 years from now, do you think, when it terms of nationalities, terms of you know, prices and the development and so on?
Yeah. In terms of, let's start with prices, because it's always an interesting discussion, and people always say, oh, prices are so high, and they cannot go up any further. But if you check the last decades, and this is, I think, very important for people who are interested in the island, the market is very healthy and very stable. So of course we have ups and downs, but prices remain going up over the past decades. So I don't see any, let's say, major correction here, although the market at the moment is more balanced due to political, economical situations worldwide. What I see for Mallorca is even more international community growing here on the island, but still being, of course, connected to the local roots, to the Mallorquin culture, which is very, very important, because this is what makes the island so interesting. I see definitely more quality, let's say less cheap tourism that we all know started decades ago as well. So this is my seeing for the next 5 to 15 years. We have a great university here on the island. We have a great tourism industry where we have major players with their headquarters here on the island, which attracts, especially in the last couple of years, a lot of tech companies, startup companies around this tourism industry, which is amazing, because it means quality jobs, better education, and I think this is definitely the way forward. Besides to mention as well that Mallorca is absolutely safe. I mean, if you compare it to other hotspots in
Absolutely.
Europe, I mean, we have it in Germany, we have it everywhere. Mallorca is really, compared to other situations, very, very safe.
And to finding that balance is maybe the ultimate challenge, for at least here in Palma, with availability of the products and the development of the island itself in a balanced way. Listen, Florian, I think we can talk for another hour or so, but I know that you're very busy, and maybe we'll catch up again another time. But for today, I'd like to thank you very much for coming. It was very interesting to get to know you better, understand your business, and many other things. And thank you.
Peter, thank you so much for having me, for the invitation. A great location, a great guy to talk to, and let's have a chat another day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.